Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, still continuing in that theme of the president's visit. Well, while he was there, he did talk about, I mean, if you follow through, recovering some funds that have been taken out of this country, and it's in different parts of the West. So he's seeking help to bring, in fact, some put it at $150 billion. Well, Mr. Adesheyoju Abimbola joins us now. He's an anti-money laundering and terrorism financing research specialist. Thank you for coming on this morning.
It's a pleasure.
You've been on this terrorism financing and monitoring anti-money laundering cases, researching for a long time. Yeah. And when we heard 150 billion, many will wonder, whoa, wait a minute, how did they come about that computation? It means they have some specifics and some documents. This 150 billion over a decade. Do you think this is actually feasible for us to get this money back?
Yeah, why not? You know, because there's a process that is internationally recognized that exists for what we call asset trace. Okay, so the proceeds, right, can be traced, they can be frozen, and they can be confiscated, they can be returned. So there's a process, there is an international process, a best practice that can be used. So it's not, it's a global standard that can be used.
But when you hear that 100 billion,
yeah,
you think it's possible that Nigeria made that much money and it just frittered away?
Yeah, it's an estimate, like you said, but it could be more.
It could be more?
Yeah, it could be more.
How do you mean? What makes you think it could be more?
Okay, because we are working with estimates here, okay? So let's look at, majority of our income is from oil, right? And the price of oil is determined by international market, okay? And our budget, the price at which we base the budget is lower than the international market, okay? So let's look at the scenario and say, okay, we've sold X, right, at so price. When we are doing the budget, right, the price is usually lower because we don't know what will happen, the price at the international market. So, okay, so let's say from the one that we have sold, right, this is what we have expected. Then the prices is higher than what we budgeted. That's why we have the ECA, right, the excess. So let's look at the scenario and say, okay, from what we have sold, this is NNPC now gives us an amount and say, okay, they've sold so amount. But for what we had since the inception of this government now, we are not clear about what NNPC is telling us, okay? So NNPC is holding part of what is the total amount of money that we have made. NNPC now says, I've spent so amount. So you can see the leakages along the way. I'm just trying to paint a scenario.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, pardon me to burden, I hope you don't lose your train of thoughts. Who could have done this computation? Because I do know that before he went on this trip, some months ago, he also did say, yes, the West had agreed to support him to recover some of those stolen funds. Could it be that they must have suggested of giving certain figures, or we now then took theirs, added it with our own estimates, or we're relying on our own estimates?
Okay, let's look at the structures we have. You know, there's a very powerful institution in Nigeria called the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, okay, that has some statistics, it has results from what it has collected. You know, we have a platform the NFI provides in which it has receipts.
Does SFU support them in any way?
The SFU is a special fraud unit in the Nigeria police. It's different from
the NFIU.
Okay, there's a standard by the Financial Action Task Force, created a standard in which every country in the world must have what we call the Financial Intelligence Unit. It's a key component of fighting crime worldwide now. Okay, so that FIUSC, what it does is to be able to proactively, right, have some intelligence tracking of stolen funds. Because the punishment for crime now, right, goes beyond just imprisonment, okay? The punishment for crime is to make sure that criminals do not benefit from that crime. Because the main motive behind crime is the profit motive. So the new paradigm shift is to look at crime from that perspective.
Is that why, or do you think that is why some of the bail conditions that the courts seem to be giving now for the financially exposed persons or those who are accused is they give the same amount of money in some cases that they think or the EFCC has brought against you, saying, look, this is your bail condition.
Yeah.
So if you fulfill this condition, you might as well. Is that the principle behind it, perhaps?
It could be, you know, the bail is based, is a discretionary thing based on the discretion of the judge. But the thinking could be that if you run away, then we have what to hold that is equal to what you have stolen.
So $150 billion is what we're looking for, according to estimates. Where do we start to look? That's the question.
Well, some of them are here, right? Some are all over the world. We live in a globalized world, right? To send money abroad,
but
right?
How much should be here? Who?
Right. I'm sure that they're estimates, okay? And like I've said, the EFCC and the NFIU, they are working with some figures too. They have some figures.
So you believe that the work should start from here in Nigeria?
Of course.
Before we begin to trace it to other places around the world.
You know, but let me tell you, when we talk about money laundering, the concept of money laundering is for those involved in criminal activities. And from the perspective of what we are talking about, the criminal activities, basically corruption, right? Stealing of the public wealth, okay? So when we look at that concept of money laundering, the concept is for the criminal to be able to convert that process of crime in such a way at which it can conceal, it can disguise it, right? And ultimately be able to escape that process of justice, of making sure that if he's arrested, right, he's not only talking about that you have stolen money, we are talking, that's what we call the predicate offense. We are more interested in making sure that what you have benefited from that process of corruption is returned to serve as a deterrent to others. Do
we need to perhaps amend some part of our laws? Because if you remember, the criminal code and the penal code, that argument that came up at the time wherein some certain person in the, I think it was in the civil service in Abuja, when he was accused of corruption, he just brought the money from his boot and paid, was it 750,000 naira? And then he was to drive off before Nigerians cried out and said, look, for that amount of money, why would you rely on that aspect of the law when you could have gone maybe steeper?
Okay, we need to understand certain things, okay? The way crime was prosecuted before the advent of the Financial Action Task Force, okay? See, we still have some carryover of that old techniques within our system, okay? But gradually, if we look at the setup of the EFCC, was supposed to be a very fundamental shift to the way we prosecute crime.
So your point is it the way we prosecute it or the law with which
there are laws that are there.
So it's the way.
It's the way, you know, because if EFCC arrests somebody, the EFCC is more interested in the proceeds of the crime and making sure that that proceeds is seized, is forfeited, right? So EFCC is talking about money laundering, which is more like a secondary offense, right? That's why we call it a derivative crime. But the police basically concerns itself with the predicate offense, what generates the proceeds, okay? So when EFCC is handling a case, right, it's not only talking about the predicate crime, it's also talking about the derivative crime. Because the new thinking worldwide is that if you allow criminals, right, to have access to the proceeds that they've stolen, right, they use it to fight the system and buy justice. And that's what we are seeing.
So how do we go about searching and recovering this money? You said some of it is in country.
Yeah, of course.
So how do we go about it? Possibly a step-by-step approach.
Yeah, there are processes, there are procedures, there are programs, there are policies that are in place.
That are in place?
Yes,
but
they're
then
in place.
If they were in place, as you say, they are in place, then would we have lost this amount of money?
Well, it depends on the people in power there. Okay, it depends on the body language of.
So the policies and procedures are there, but they are not binding to the people in power.
No, it's the implementation. We have all the laws. We have virtually everything that we can use at least to get some measure of success. But the problem has always been implementation.
Let me bring another perspective from speaking about the laws.
Yeah.
Some of the signal coming through from the states as a result of these visits, seeking cooperation from the West to recover this money, is the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. We understand it was signed in 1985, but it will between Nigeria and U.S. And we understand it came into effect in 2003. And now it will be given some teeth, they say. And one wonders, look, since 2003 till now, why do you think we didn't take advantage of that? Or why was it that it wasn't given some teeth, as it were?
Because you need to make a request. If somebody has stolen your money, and the money is with somebody else, and you have not gone to the person to say, okay, please, I understand that you have my money, right? And I have an agreement with you that if I make a request, then you are going to return. That's why it's called mutual understanding. You need to make a request. If nobody makes a request, the guy it's not under any obligation to start calling you that, please, I have your money, come and collect it.
But we should